The real power of walking away and why it's so hard to do all right. Let's start with a question that might seem simple at first, but gets harder the more you think about it. Why is walking away so hard to do? Whether it's a toxic relationship, a dead-end job, or even a bad habit, why do we stay when everything in us is telling us to go? In this video, we're going to explore why walking away is actually one of the most powerful things you can do, and why it's also one of the hardest. The real power of walking away isn't just about leaving something behind physically, it's about something much deeper. It's about reclaiming your freedom, your time, and your energy. But here's the thing, walking away forces us to confront some of our deepest fears. Let's break it down logically. At the core of why walking away is so difficult lies attachment. We get attached to outcomes, to people, to labels, and to our own expectations of how things should turn out. Psychologically, we're wired to seek comfort in what's familiar, even when what's familiar is slowly draining the life out of us. How many times have you stayed in a situation because you were afraid of the uncertainty that comes with leaving? It's like this: we often mistake comfort for happiness. Just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's good for us. Think about it. Have you ever stayed in a bad relationship because leaving felt scarier than the pain of staying? Or kept working a job you hate because at least it's a paycheck? We convince ourselves that staying is the safer option. But what if that's the real trap? Here's a deep question to think about. Is what you're holding on to worth the cost of your freedom? See, the things we cling to often start to own us. It's ironic because we tell ourselves that we're in control by staying. I can make this work, we say. I just need more time. But in reality, the longer we stay in situations that no longer serve us, the more we give away our power. Walking away, on the other hand, is an act of reclaiming that power. It's saying, I'm worth more than this. There's an ancient story from the Stoics that perfectly illustrates this. Imagine a dog tied to the back of a cart. The cart is moving forward, and the dog has two options. He can either resist and be dragged along painfully, or he can walk alongside the cart willingly. The cart represents life's circumstances, always moving forward whether we like it or not. The dog represents us, clinging to things we can't control, resisting change, and making the journey more painful than it needs to be. Walking away is choosing to walk alongside the cart.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But here's where it gets interesting. Walking away isn't just about leaving something behind, it's about opening yourself up to something new. When you stay in a situation that no longer aligns with who you are, you're closing yourself off to all the other possibilities that life might have to offer. You can't receive new opportunities if your hands are still full, clinging to what's already gone. Here's a second deep question for you. What are you missing out on by refusing to walk away? Most of us are afraid to walk away because we think we'll lose something valuable. There's a sense of loss of time, of effort, of identity. I've already invested so much, we tell ourselves. But ask yourself, are you really losing? Or are you freeing yourself from something that's been holding you back? Walking away isn't a failure. In fact, it often takes more courage to leave than it does to stay. It's easy to stay in a situation where you're comfortable, where you can predict what happens next, even if what happens next is more of the same misery. The real challenge is in stepping into the unknown. And that's exactly why walking away is so powerful. It forces you to trust in yourself, in your ability to adapt, and in the idea that you deserve something better. Let's think about this from a different angle for a second. What's the alternative? If you don't walk away, you're choosing to remain stuck, right? You're choosing to settle. And sure, settling might feel easier in the short term, but what's the long-term cost? Imagine looking back on your life 10 years from now and realizing that you stayed in a situation that wasn't good for you because you were too afraid to leave. Is that a regret you're willing to carry? I know this sounds harsh, but it's something we all need to consider. The cost of staying is often far greater than the cost of leaving. The longer we stay in situations that no longer serve us, the more we lose our sense of purpose, our sense of self. And here's the truth: staying where you don't belong is a form of self-betrayal. So, why is walking away so hard? Because it asks us to face ourselves. It asks us to look at the reality of a situation and say, this isn't working. It asks us to choose ourselves over the comfort of the familiar. And that's scary. But at the same time, it's the most liberating thing you can do. All right, now that we've laid the groundwork for why walking away is so powerful, let's dive deeper into how you can actually do it. Because knowing why it's important is one thing, but actually taking that step, that's where it gets real. The fear of the unknown and why it holds us back. Now that we've explored why walking away is so powerful, let's talk about the biggest obstacle that keeps most of us from actually doing it: the fear of the unknown. This fear is deeply embedded in our psychology. As humans, we're wired to seek security, stability, and predictability. The unknown, it's the opposite of all those things. It's uncertainty, risk, and vulnerability all wrapped into one. But here's the paradox: everything you want in life lies on the other side of the unknown. Think about it. When you stay in a situation that's no longer good for you, it's usually because the fear of what might happen if you leave seems worse than the discomfort of staying. The toxic job, the unhealthy relationship, even the bad habits we cling to, they all provide us with a kind of false security. We know what to expect, even if what we expect is pain. But ask yourself, is staying in a situation that's draining your energy a real form of security, or is it just a way to avoid facing the fear of the unknown? The unknown, by its very nature, is full of potential. It's a blank canvas. But because we can't immediately see what's on the other side, we often imagine the worst-case scenario. What if I leave my job and never find another one? What if I walk away from this relationship and I'm alone forever? Our minds are experts at magnifying fear, creating a future full of worst-case hypotheticals that paralyze us from taking action. But here's the thing: the unknown isn't the problem. It's our fear of the unknown that keeps us trapped. And this fear is usually rooted in our attachment to outcomes. We want to know how things will turn out before we take the leap. We want guarantees. But life doesn't give us guarantees, does it? Let me ask you something. What would your life be like if you weren't afraid of the unknown? What would change for you if you trusted that, no matter what happens, you'll be able to handle it? Because here's the truth: you've already survived the unknown many times before. Every major decision you've ever made, changing schools, moving to a new place, starting a new job, entering or leaving a relationship, every single one of those choices involved stepping into the unknown. And you made it through. The unknown didn't break you. The real challenge isn't the unknown itself. It's learning to trust yourself in the face of uncertainty. Learning to trust that you'll figure it out as you go. Learning to trust that, even if things don't go according to plan, you have the strength and resilience to adapt. This is why walking away is so hard. It requires faith in yourself. You have to believe that you're capable of navigating whatever comes next, even if you can't see the full picture right now. You have to believe that your worth isn't tied to the situation you're leaving, but to the values and principles you carry with you. And let's be clear, walking away isn't about running from your problems. It's about walking towards something better, something that aligns more closely with who you are and what you truly want. But you can't reach that better place if you're too afraid to leave the old one behind. So here's a question for you. What if the unknown is actually full of opportunities you can't see yet? What if, by staying where you are, you're closing yourself off from all the possibilities that come with stepping into a new chapter of your life? In the end, the unknown isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. Because within the unknown lies the potential for growth, for transformation, and for a life that's more aligned with your true self. The art of letting go, why we hold on too long so. We've talked about the fear of the unknown and how it keeps us stuck. But there's another reason why walking away is so hard. We don't know how to let go. It's almost like we're hardwired to hold on, whether it's to people, situations, or even identities we've outgrown. But why? Why do we cling to things that no longer serve us? It comes down to one simple fact: letting go feels like losing. And we don't like to lose. Whether it's a relationship we've invested years into or a career path we've spent decades building, walking away can feel like we're throwing away all that time, effort, and emotional energy. It feels like admitting defeat, like acknowledging that something didn't turn out the way we hoped. And that stings. But here's where this mindset traps us. Not everything we hold on to is worth keeping. It's like carrying a backpack full of rocks up a mountain. You're struggling, you're exhausted, and yet you keep going because you've convinced yourself that those rocks are somehow important. But what if they're not? What if they're just weighing you down? Here's a powerful question to ask yourself: are you holding on because it's still meaningful? Or are you holding on because you're afraid to let go? We often think that holding on shows strength. I'm not giving up, we tell ourselves. But what if real strength lies in knowing when to walk away? What if strength is about recognizing that some things, no matter how much we've invested in them, just aren't meant to last forever? Letting go doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, letting go is one of the strongest things you can do. It's a conscious choice to free yourself from whatever is no longer aligned with your growth. It's an act of self-respect. When you let go, you're saying, I deserve better than this. But here's where it gets tricky. We don't just hold on to people or situations. We hold on to identities. We tell ourselves stories about who we are, and we get attached to those stories. I'm the person who always makes things work, or I'm the one who never gives up, or I'm successful because of this job. These stories give us a sense of identity, a sense of purpose. But sometimes they're the very thing keeping us stuck. Ask yourself, what stories are you telling yourself that are preventing you from walking away? Are you staying in that relationship because you've told yourself you're the kind of person who always puts others first? Are you staying in that job because you've built your identity around being successful in a certain career? Here's the truth: sometimes the stories we tell ourselves are outdated. Sometimes they stop reflecting who we really are and start keeping us from who we could become. When you walk away, you're not just leaving behind a situation, you're also shedding an old version of yourself. And that's hard. But it's also necessary for growth. Let me ask you, what if letting go is the only way to become the person you're truly meant to be? What if holding on is keeping you small, keeping you stuck in a version of yourself that no longer fits? Here's the beautiful part about letting go: it creates space. Space for something new. Space for possibilities you can't even imagine yet. But that space can't exist if you're still holding on to something that's weighing you down. Letting go isn't about forgetting or erasing the past. It's about acknowledging that the past has served its purpose and that it's time to move forward. And moving forward means walking away from what no longer serves you so you can step into what's next. The freedom of walking away, and why it's the ultimate act of self-love. Now that we've dug deep into the fear of the unknown and the difficulty of letting go, it's time to talk about what happens after you walk away. Because here's the thing: walking away isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's the moment when you reclaim your freedom, your time, your energy, and most importantly, your sense of self. But let's be real for a second, walking away is rarely neat or easy. It's often messy, emotional, and full of uncertainty. You'll probably second-guess yourself. You might feel regret, or guilt, or even loneliness. But let's pause and ask, what does freedom really feel like? Is it the absence of discomfort, or is it the courage to face discomfort, knowing you're choosing yourself? See, that's the key. Walking away is the ultimate act of self-love. It's saying, I'm choosing me. It's putting your well-being, your growth, and your happiness above the fear of judgment, above the fear of failure, and above the fear of failure, and above the fear of the unknown. And that's a radical act in a world that constantly tells us to stay where we are, to settle, to not make waves. Here's a deep question to sit with. What if walking away isn't about leaving something behind, but about walking towards something better? We often focus so much on what we're losing that we forget to look ahead at what we might gain. The truth is, when you walk away from something that isn't serving you, you open the door to possibilities you couldn't see before. You create space for new opportunities, new relationships, and new versions of yourself to emerge. But here's where the real freedom comes in. When you walk away, you stop living for other people's expectations. So often we stay in situations because we're afraid of what others will think. We're afraid of being judged, of seeming like a failure, of disappointing the people around us. But ask yourself, whose life are you really living? Are you staying out of fear of judgment, or are you staying because it's truly what's best for you? Walking away is about reclaiming your autonomy. It's about saying, I get to decide what's right for me, and that's powerful. Because when you walk away, you're no longer tied to the expectations and opinions of others. You're no longer living according to someone else's script. You're writing your own story, one where you are the main character, not a supporting actor in someone else's narrative. There's a saying that goes, sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself, and I think that's exactly what walking away is about. It's about losing the parts of you that were never really yours to begin with, the roles, the identities, the expectations that were put on you by others. And in that process of losing, you find the core of who you are. You find your values, your desires, your voice. But let's not sugarcoat it. Freedom has a cost. The cost is stepping into the unknown, facing uncertainty, and letting go of what's familiar. But what you gain is priceless. You gain the freedom to live authentically. You gain the freedom to choose what aligns with your values. And most importantly, you gain the freedom to grow into the person you're meant to be. So, let me leave you with this final question. What would your life look like if you truly embraced the power of walking away? What would change for you if you let go of the things, the people, and the beliefs that are holding you back? What new opportunities might arise? What version of yourself would you step into? Walking away isn't about closing doors, it's about opening new ones. And the moment you walk away from what no longer serves you, you step into the freedom to live a life that's truly yours. That's the real power of walking away. It's hard, yes, but it's also the most liberating, empowering, and loving thing you can do for yourself. And that's where the magic happens.